What's going on, everybody? So I just finished my third path in total in the Abyss. I did 2 paths without Aegon, and this last time around, thankfully, I finally got Aegon. But I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are still looking for their Aegons and wondering, like, how much harder is the Abyss actually without Aegon? And this is a difficult question to answer. You can look at 2 different players, one with and one without, and compare numbers between the two. But, I mean, skill kind of plays a pretty big role in this as well. So, you know, how do you compare something like that? And then even if you're looking at the same person, like taking me, for example, where, yeah, my skill has not really changed much between the time I did the first path and the time I did my third path. The paths themselves are still very different. So the first path I took, which is, of course, the easy path here in yellow. And then the second path I took was path number 5, which is definitely much harder than path number 1. And then this most recent time, I took path number 2. It's a different amount of fights. The fights themselves are, of course, different. Each path comes with their own unique challenges. And then, of course, they all end in the Collector. So I'm not going to be able to give you the most scientific answer here. But what I want to do is actually take a look at my previous runs. And I want to take a look and see, you know, exactly how many revives it took to get, you know, through the path, essentially. But I want to look at it before the Collector first, because the Collector is a big deal, man. This dude is tough. So on the very first run that I did, going in here with a completely unique team with Sabretooth and Sasquatch and everything, it took me 64 revives to make it to the Collector. 64 revives. You can see in the bottom left corner here, it's kind of getting covered up a little bit by YouTube's stuff, but 64 revives and 315 potions. We're going to look mostly at the revives today. If you want to analyze the potions yourself, go for it, but we're going to look mostly at revives just for simplicity's sake. So 64 revives. Again, the second run I did was path number 5, much more difficult. It took me 78 revives in comparison. I was not using Sabretooth anymore, thankfully, because honestly, Sabretooth was not that good for it. The damage when you got him fully ramped up was nice, but I couldn't even use him for that many fights, and yeah, it was just kind of annoying to have to keep his charges. Anyway, so a little bit of a difference there. 64 revives for the easy path, and then 78 revives on path number 5. I feel like that was a reasonable difference. And then we take a look at the run I did with Aegon, this most recent run here, which was path number 2. And it only took me 62 revives to make it to the Collector, which, yeah, is actually fewer than the other 2 paths. There's actually a higher number of fights on that path as well. So the easy path, path number 1 here, is 20 fights in total, including the Collector. Path number 5 is 19 fights in total, but again, some definite challenges in those 19 fights. And then the most recent path was 24 fights in total. But they're all pretty similar. Really not a huge difference having Aegon up until this point, at least. The big difference that I noticed was actually fighting the Collector. So let's go back to the first path. I did 64 revives in total to make it to the Collector. And then post-Collector, I was up to 99. So 64 to 99, we're talking 35 revives is what it took to take down the Collector. And okay, to be fair, this was my first time doing the fight. I hadn't really watched anyone take down the Collector. I think I took a look at like a 1-minute clip or something like that, just to see how to dex his special 2 or something along those lines. But the fight was just brutal. You know, I didn't understand fully the mechanics. I don't know if I still understand fully the mechanics. But regardless, it was so brutal using these champions to take down the Collector. So let's see how I did the second time around. So second time around, going up against the Collector, we should see an improvement here. It went from, you know, 78 revives approaching the Collector to when I actually took him down was 106. So 28 revives in total the second time around, down from 35. So not bad of a difference. And the first time around, the first like half of the Collector actually wasn't that bad. Sabretooth kind of carried that first part, but after that he couldn't really do much for damage. So Yeah, it was the second half of the collector that really sucked. Now let's take a look at what I was able to do with Aegon. So I went from 62 revives. Remember, the first time it took me 35, second time took me 28. This last time, he was down in 10 revives in total, from 62 revives to 72. That is a massive, massive difference. I mean, just look at the time differences as well. So getting to the collector took me like 8.5 hours, almost 9 hours the second time around. 8 hours the third time around. So, it still took a while to get to the collector. I play a little bit slow. I'm streaming, all that, and then the difference, it was like 9 hours and 38 minutes. It was basically over an hour to take down the collector. And then the second time through went from 8:52 to 10:02. So again, we're talking about over an hour. This third time around went from 7:57, probably 8 by the time I actually clicked on the collector, started the first fight, and I was done in less than half an hour. Crazy difference Aegon makes for actually fighting the collector. And I'm sure if I went back and did all 3 of these paths over again, just having that experience, I could reduce these numbers. But the point is, like, yeah, Aegon, he makes a huge difference. You can certainly get through the abyss without Aegon. People have done it before, all 5 paths. It's not common, but it's been done before. MSD's done it. And there are other options to get through the actual paths themselves. But again, like the paths themselves, that's not really where I found there to be that big of a difference. It was all within reason of one another. Considering the fact that, again, like path 5 had some really challenging fights to it. But the collector, man, the collector is just a different beast when it comes to the abyss itself. So yeah, Aegon helped immensely for that fight. And, I mean, he also, I would say the other big difference of having Aegon was taking some of the fights, like Howard the Duck here. Howard the Duck, totally simple fight, but he's got 5.7 million health. And to get through that, I was using Corvus to get through that on my first go around. I believe I was using Corvus at least. And that's just a nightmare. Nobody wants to go through 5.7. You don't want to go through 500,000 life with a Corvus, let alone, 10, 11 times that. So yeah, just having someone that I can kind of zone out with Aegon, and it's still, it's still a slog to get through the fight, but, for the most part, you don't have to think too much. You can hit into the opponent's block once you have your combo built up, things like that. It was nice. it was a very laid back experience. So that was the other big difference, is just that some of the longer fights, they weren't mentally taxing, and they just went down, maybe a little bit faster. Because like I said, the time difference wasn't that big between all 3. It was 8.5 hours in the first run, almost 9 hours to get to the collector on the second path I did, and then 8 to get to the collector on the third path. So it's not a huge time difference, but keep in mind there was also 24 fights on the path that I used Aegon for, compared to 20 and 19 respectively for the other paths. So yeah, just the less mental strain, and the fact that it took so many less revives to get down the collector using Aegon. Those were the 2 biggest differences using the champion. So if you want to do the abyss without Aegon, I mean, go for it. At the end of the day, saving yourself 15-ish, let's call it, 15, maybe even 20 revives on the collector. At the end of the day, that's not the biggest deal in terms of units. If you think about it, let's say the 20 times 40. I mean, it's 800. It's a big deal. It's significant. But the point is, like, you can farm 800 units, and you can get the abyss done if you really want. Or if you want to keep waiting for Aegon, or just trying to stall as much as possible, like I was doing, and just have an easier time with it, you have that option as well. So it's kind of up to you. But that was kind of my perspective on having Aegon versus not having Aegon. So hope that helps somebody out there who's kind of stuck in that position that I was in. And for now, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.